So you have someone here on your screen, Sanskriti, and she scored on 4th of July a score of 770, 5144, genuinely whopping score. You can see Quant 51, nothing, it doesn't get better than that. And this is her profile. Let me stop this share so that we can really give her. Hey, Sanskriti, finally, yeah, we get to see. It's been a long wait, I guess. Where were you traveling?
I was in Switzerland doing a long hike. So, yeah.
Okay. So after the GMAT, did you plan that this is what you're rewarding yourself with?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So just describe how your journey has been with the course, what all you refer to, which material, which videos, etc. Just go through it completely, right? Chronologically, please.
Sure. Okay. So I think, like, given that I was traveling in the later part of the summer, I just graduated from college. And my idea was that I booked the test for July 4th. I gave myself exactly 1 month to prepare. So 28 days, basically, that I prepared. So I think throughout the process, I think I divided my prep into 3 phases. And I think this was really helpful for me. So maybe it'll help some people in the call as well. Firstly, I think it's important to say that Sandeep sir's material is pretty comprehensive. So you should just trust it and follow it to the T, and I think you'll do really well. So the 3 things that I did was, first was kind of just acquisition of knowledge, really going through all the material, pre-work, all of that. So just make sure that while I did this, unlike how we study for exams, I didn't really study and do practice. I tried to do them side by side. So by the end of this phase, I done most of the content, tried to understand what the types of questions were and stuff like that. But I figured out that I had one key weakness, which was that I wasn't able to sit for 3 hours to do the paper. Like, my attention span wasn't able to satisfy that. So I realized that I was getting all the questions right if I had to do 10 in a row, but if I had to do 36, then I would get them wrong. So what I did in the phase 2, which I think was a bit different, was I kind of built my stamina up. So I started with just 20 questions of RC, which was my attention span at that time. And then I did the next day 22, 25, 26, until I finally was able to do 36 questions of RC, STCR individually. So then mentally it was like, if I can do all of them for 36 questions, I can do one set of it.
Right.
Yeah. And then finally, I think once I felt confident that, okay, I can sit for 3 hours, my accuracy was going up. And then I went to the mock tests, and I used the official mocks. I think, yeah, they're a bit easier than the real paper was, but I think those are awesome in terms of the indicativeness to just how you're overall going to do. My score was similar to what I was getting in my mocks, of the official mocks. And I just did really timed, really focused practice test papers along the time of when my test would be, and then just went in for the test. So yeah, that was my journey of sorts.
Right. Which all content do you exactly study? Could you just lay that out for each of the areas? And okay, one more thing, which was your weakest area? Which was your strongest area? That as well, please let us know.
Sure. So I think, like, I've always liked math. So quant was fine for me. It wasn't that much of a hassle. I think I had different problems in all. In RC, like, I was really struggling with focusing the entire passage, like I said. So the only way to solve that is by doing the practice. So I think I would specifically recommend the 700 to 800 PDF for the RC section. For SC, the 100 most important questions and the 50 minor, that PDF is amazing. I think that one was like what really took my concepts to, I felt like I knew what I was doing after doing that. I think the 700 to 800 one in all the sections are really good. So that one I definitely recommend. But for SC, I think the 100 most important questions was even more helpful to me than any other content, because it was really applicable, right? There's specific questions with the concept. So those really helped me. Yeah, I think those are like the ones that I would definitely point out and highlight. Yeah.
And how about critical reasoning? Was there any weakness, or was that strong in generally?
So critical reasoning, for me, it was more about getting the hang of the question. So like, I like the way that in the last minute verbal one, I'll also point out that one. I think it's nice that throughout CR has been broken into topic-wise questions. And of course, that's not how it's seen in the GMAT, but it's helpful for your brain to start knowing that, okay, if it's an assumption question, these are the 3 steps that I need to do. So I kind of went into that, but I was like, okay, if I see that this is a weekend question, I know these are the 4 things I need to look for. These are the things that I typically see are the loopholes that they want me to fall into. I would identify which one it was, and then the answer was really quick after that. So like, I think I would really recommend that throughout verbal, try and understand, like for me, it was really trying and understand not the question, but the question type. Like
Right.
like once I do a question, I'm never going to see that question again, right? But I will see a question very much like it. So my thing was like, okay, how can I make sure that if I see a question like it, how can I make sure I get that one right?
And when you say 28 days, how many hours a day were you studying? Because you were saying also that 3 hours nonstop you couldn't focus. But were you focusing, like, were you studying more than like how many hours a day? Let's start from there.
Yeah. Like honestly, I studied a lot in these 28 days. As I just my thing was that I just wanted to do it well the first time, and I wanted to get it done and out of the way, because I think it's just like a big mental thing. So I was studying like a good 5 to 6, 7 hours a day. Yeah.
So you did have the entire day to study, basically. You were
Yeah,
not.
like, because I mean, I'm back home with my family, so I didn't really have. I just made it my goal that this month I'm gonna do GMAT, and then I just really gave it my all, and then I was done with it.
And how was the sectional portal or mock? Did you try that as well, or some of the stuff?
No, so I actually didn't try that. Because of the time constraint, I was barely able to get through all the 700, 800 questions and stuff like that. But from what I've heard, I think all those sectional mocks are also very, very effective.
Right. Any tips that you should do this or you should not do this for any people who have not written the test so far? The ones, all of them listening to you right now. So yes.
Sure. So maybe I'll tell you 3 do's that are, I think, like extremely critical for everyone to understand. I think the first one was, of course, I understand that everyone's doing this at different points in life, right? So, I mean, personally, if I would have tried to do this in college, I wouldn't have been able to give a month like this. But I do think the first is like the rigor needs to be present before the exam, because it's like a muscle, right? Like I saw my highest jumps in scores. Like I think one day my SC was like, there was a few days when my SC was kind of dipping and I was feeling really weird about it. And I did this whole day of SC where I just like kind of did a marathon of sorts. And then the next day, like I felt really good about it. So I would say the rigor and long sitting, really involving yourself in the exam and making that all you think about is really helpful, because I think that was really effective, number one. The second thing that I think Sir mentions a lot of times during the prep process, but very important, is make an error log. So I made an error log from day one. Like my first day of prep, I had an Excel sheet which said SCCR, whatever, like the topics, and I would take a screenshot because of whatever the question that I got wrong, pasted there, what was the right answer, and why did I get it wrong? And like, what was the type of question that I was missing? And then the third thing that I would say definitely do, which I think a lot of people later regret that they didn't do. So I actually got this as advice and I did it and I thought it was really helpful, is just making the error log isn't enough. So every 5 days, like as a rule, I would take out 4 to 5 hours to just revise my error log. So like I would read those questions again. I would explain to myself why I got those wrong. I would read all my notes for the topics again, because it's honestly not possible to remember all the, like you won't remember that considered as an idiom unless you read it at a regular interval 10 times. So that was really helpful for me, because it was almost like a reset button every 5 days, where my personally got a lot of confidence that, okay, I know everything there is to know in this test, and now I can tackle another sectional or whatever, right? So those are the 3 do's I think I would definitely say. 1 month prep, or rigor prep, make an error log and revise it. I think the don'ts, maybe like I'll give 2. The first one is, I think GMAT can be a really stressful process for a lot of people, because it might seem like you don't know how to do it. It's a lot of content, but I would honestly say like trust the process and just enjoy it. Because I feel like the more in the initial few days, I try to resist it. And I think that doesn't help. Honestly, GMAT is really cool because it's a really cool skill, right? You get to learn a lot of reasoning. You get to learn to be faster. You get to learn to think better. So if you just think about it in that mindset that I'm learning something cool for 30 days, at least that helped me a lot. So like, don't hate the process, basically. And the second one is, I think really taking the mock like a mock. So one mistake I made was in the beginning when I started taking full length tests, I would give myself leeway that, oh, right now I'm going to take 2 minutes extra, but in the real test, I would figure it out. I don't think that works, like, because that's not, I mean, it's when you need to go into the real test with a real center, it needs to be like muscle memory. So you can't give yourself leeway during the practice. You need to simulate it as much as you can so that the real test seems like a piece of cake. So I think like taking every day of prep seriously rather than just, oh, right now I'm taking 4 minutes for this question, but in the real test I'll take 2, because that won't happen. So I think that mindset change was also really helpful. So yeah, those were a few things I would say.
Okay. Did you make some silly mistakes in data sufficiency in the beginning, although your quant was strong? Just wanted to know. Or like not testing all cases or not taking all.
No, yeah, definitely. I think especially if your quant is strong, you get a bit overconfident in the beginning. Like you start thinking, oh, yeah, I know this case, I know how to do this. But I think there's a I'm not sure what it's called. I think 30 or 50 data sufficiency.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
somewhere.
DS traps.
DS traps. Yeah, that worksheet was really cool, actually. I think it's there are a lot of traps, but they're like predictable. So in the beginning it was unpredictable, but once I did that worksheet and I tried to again characterize it in my head that, okay, so whenever, like for example, if I would see a question with something on a power and it was an inequality, my brain would automatically know that either it's a play on negative and positive number or it's a play on a fraction and a whole number. Like those are the only 2 cases that I could really or like another one that I think was really another one with inequalities. Like I realized after doing a bunch of questions that, I mean, it's either positive, 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 negative, negative, positive, negative, negative. Those are the only cases that I can try for each of these things, right? So once you remember that, then you can quickly tick them off in your head. So I think, yeah, like I think what was really helpful is trying to remember at least the edge cases that you can before the test, so that in the test you're not nervous and anxious that am I missing a test case? Because what that does is it wastes a lot of time. Like you want to get everything right on the test day. So I knew that these are the only 4 test cases. Once I've tested them, I was confident that my answer was A or B or whatever the answer was. So I think that like mental surety helps you get a lot of speed, and that's really important when you're giving the real test. So DS is a place where I think you can actually outshine, because that once you get it, the time to solve is much lower, for me at least, than was the problem solving questions. So I think like focus on data sufficiency, because it can actually get you a lot of like leeway for harder questions. Yeah.
All right. And what was the exact exam experience and which order did you take? Did you have some nerves and anxiety, or were you very confident at the beginning? Just tell the entire exam experience as well.
Yeah. Sure. So I was really nervous, not gonna lie. I'm because I've given a few standardized tests before. I gave like the ACT, some of the like in undergrad level. Standardized testing has always been a bit scary for me. So I think I gave the verbal section first. It was clearly weaker for me, so I wanted to get that out of the way. I gave it in a testing center. I went in there. It was really cold, so I don't know. I think it was a good advice to just carry a light jacket because you don't want to be feeling cold the entire test. I think one thing that I would say that was really surprising to me was the screen was really big. So I practiced my entire practice on my Mac, right? So I was not used to seeing the SC questions so large. Like I'm reading from one end to the other. And it was like, like what is like, and for the RC section in like 2 of my passages I had to scroll, but it doesn't scroll like a Mac, and it doesn't scroll like how it scrolls in the official test. It scrolls weirdly, like it suddenly jumped to the second half of the thing, and it's disorienting. So I think prepare for a bit of a larger screen. I think if you have like a desktop at home, that might be a really good, because that's what's there in the center. So trying that out there, I mean, I wish I could have done that, but it's okay. I think so. I started the verbal section. The first question came. Firstly, it was really difficult for me to read a large SC question, but I think within the first 2 questions, I felt like I was in the groove. I knew what I was doing, and verbal was really smooth. Like I think this is where like a lot of practice really helps, because you're just chilling, you're just reading the question, you're focusing on each question, and remember that like you've prepped a lot for it. So give each question your absolute best. And so for me, like I really stuck to the time. I had like a clear measurement that 10 questions I need to be at 50 minutes. Like I knew what I need to see on the clock, and I just focused on that. So I was like, I need to. So in verbal, like my timing was pretty good. I had like a minute to spare, and I felt confident about what I had done. Math was surprisingly very weird for me. I think usually the first few questions are a breeze, right? But the first 2 questions were really tough. like I was just not able to solve it. Maybe it was the nerves of switching from verbal to math, but the first two questions, it took me like, I think 2.5 minutes each. I felt like the paper was a bit gone, but then I think it was that moment where you kind of recollect yourself and say that, okay, like, I mean, the best I can do right now is give the rest of these 29 questions my best. And I don't know how my first two questions, but I'll keep going. After that, the questions got pretty, like, it was pretty smooth. However, the last two questions of the math section were really tough permutation and combination questions. I had 5 minutes left, but it was one of those questions that like I would need 6-7 minutes to solve. Like it had at least 9 cases. So the last two questions in math I actually guessed. I used my intuition. I was like, what would Sandeep sir say? Looks like a C. And I marked like I kind of just guessed on the last two questions. And yeah, that was basically my thing. Then I gave the other two sections and then the score flash. So it's pretty quick. I don't really remember a lot of it, but I think
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So great. I mean, and you're applying now because you just don't have much work experience, as far as I understand, right? You don't have work.
I don't have work experience yet. No, so I think the plan is so to work for about 2 or 3 years, and then I'll be going for an MBA. But I wanted to just get the GMAT out of the way given its validity for 5 years, so that I can just apply whenever I want now. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of your friends also trained with us. What's the name of the friend? I mean, just want to know.
Yeah, from my college as well, Tarun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So he hasn't written, or he will be writing? I'm not sure because we
No, I think he's already written. He also got a 760.
Oh, okay. Right. Oh, Tarun George, is that the
Yeah,
person?
yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed him quite some time back.
Yeah. We studied together. Yeah.
Super. So really happy to know. Do keep me posted whenever you're applying to whichever schools, and all the way best. You're starting work soon, it seems.
Yep, in September. So yeah.
Okay. All right, Sanskriti. Absolutely thrilling to really talk to you, and good luck. Bye-bye.